So what if a ceasefire was announced that, wasn't really about peace at all? What if it was actually about a massive shift in global power, centered on one single critical waterway? Well, according to the sources we're breaking down today, that's exactly what just happened. Okay, let's dive into this because it is a game changer.
So, on the surface, the announcement seems pretty straightforward, a 2-week ceasefire between the US and Iran. And after weeks of things getting really tense, this seems like a good thing, right? A step back from the edge. But as we're about to see, this is anything but a simple pause. Because the real story here isn't about peace. It's about who now controls the flow of the world's oil. It raises a huge question that could define everything for the next decade. Who's really in charge now? Because the answer, according to the sources for this explainer, has completely changed. To really understand this new reality, you have to look at the terms of the deal. And believe me, this wasn't some simple agreement to stop shooting. It was a major concession. And it came with a very, very high price tag. Now, what's really interesting here is who brought these two sides to the table. It wasn't a traditional Western power, it was Pakistan. And both the US and Iran have actually thanked Pakistan for its role, which suddenly puts Islamabad right at the center of this new diplomatic map. And here's where it just gets wild. Iran didn't really negotiate. They laid out a 10-point proposal that was basically a list of demands. A permanent end to the war, lifting all sanctions. They even demanded the US and Israel pay to rebuild their infrastructure. And the craziest part? The White House reportedly called these terms practical. And that brings us to the most immediate and frankly shocking result of this deal. The Strait of Hormuz, which is this vital artery for the entire global economy, has effectively been turned into the world's newest and most expensive toll booth. To really get the scale of this, just look at that number. A full quarter of all oil shipped by sea passes through this one narrow choke point. For decades, the US Navy basically guaranteed its security for free. Well, that guarantee now comes from someone else, and it is definitely not free. And here's the price tag, $1 million per ship, just for safe passage. Basically, in exchange for not getting attacked, ships now have to pay Iran for the privilege. It's an incredible flip, turning a global public waterway into a private cash machine. So let's just do the math on that. This toll is expected to bring in $64 billion a year for Iran. Think about that. A country that was just recently being crushed by sanctions is now about to get this massive economic windfall. And in a really clever move, they've already said they'll be sharing the profits with their neighbor, Oman. But the fallout from this goes so far beyond just tolls and regional power plays. No, this deal strikes right at the heart of the American-led global financial system. We are talking about a full-blown crisis for the petrodollar. So, for anyone who's not familiar, the petrodollar system has been the bedrock of America's economic power for 50 years. It's a pretty simple deal. Oil, everywhere in the world, is bought and sold in US dollars. This creates a constant demand for dollars, which props up the whole US economy. And that system, it's now under direct attack. So, the system that defined the last half-century is being turned on its head. The US has gone from being the top dog, the dominant power, to what the sources are calling a traffic facilitator. And maybe the biggest symbolic blow of all, these new tolls, they might be paid in Chinese yuan, not US dollars. And this financial earthquake is really just a symptom of a much larger geopolitical shift. The old maps of the Middle East are basically being torn up and redrawn, and a whole new axis of power is taking shape. So what finally got this deal over the finish line? Well, according to the sources, it wasn't a call from Washington. It was a direct phone call from China's Xi Jinping to Tehran. That one action tells you almost everything you need to know. It suggests Beijing's influence in Iran is now stronger than Washington's, and it marks China's arrival as the region's new top power broker. I mean, just look at this reversal of fortunes. Iran goes from a sanctioned, isolated state to a regional superpower controlling oil. China goes from just being a customer to the main strategic player. And the US, from the dominant hegemon to a traffic facilitator. Meanwhile, America's key ally, Israel, is left looking anxious and completely sidelined. And hey, you don't have to take my word for how America's allies feel about this. Israel's former Prime Minister, Yair Lapid, straight up called this the greatest political disaster in his country's history. That gives you a real sense of the feeling of abandonment here.
So a new order has been set. But here's the thing. It's an order built on threats and total mistrust, not on any kind of real peace. This whole new arrangement is incredibly fragile.
I mean, this quote from Iran's own Security Council says it all. Even as they're declaring victory, they're making it crystal clear that their finger is on the trigger. They have absolutely zero trust in the US and are ready to go at the slightest provocation.
And here is the flashpoint that could bring the whole thing crashing down. Israel says, okay, we support the ceasefire with Iran itself, but, and this is a huge but, they say they will keep fighting Iran's main proxy, Hezbollah, in Lebanon. So how can a ceasefire possibly hold when the key players are still fighting each other through proxies?
And that leaves us with the final, pretty unsettling question. In just 2 weeks, a simple ceasefire agreement has somehow created a new world order, with new rules and new bosses. But since it's built on such a shaky foundation of force and suspicion, the real question is, how long can it possibly last?